Our topic of discussion today is epistemology, which is a branch of metaphysics. Metaphysics deals with the sources of knowledge, types of knowledge, and the problem of how we know, and finally the limits of knowledge. The theories of knowledge that characterize the philosophical systems like empiricism and skepticism. Then we will discuss the theories of truth, the correspondence, coherence and pragmatist theories. The metaphysical position of a philosopher is considered logically sound only if the theory of reality, that is ontology, is coherent with the theory of knowledge, epistemology. Any ontological theory definitely implies the question, how do we know it? And this is the concern of epistemology, that deals with the problem of knowledge. And when we consider the etymology of the term epistemology, it is derived from the Greek words episteme, which means knowledge, and logos, which means reason or thinking. Epistemology deals with the most general and fundamental aspects of knowledge. So, any full-fledged system of philosophy is bound to explain how knowledge is possible, what is the standard or criterion of genuine knowledge, etc. And we can define epistemology therefore as the study of the origin, nature and limits of human knowledge. So, we can see that the human pursuit of knowledge is always linked with the question of truth. Hence, epistemology is also concerned with the theories of truth. So, first of all, we have to consider which are the primary sources or the means to acquire knowledge, and these sources are mainly four. First one is sense perception, and the sense perception is significant in the common sense understanding of reality as well as in scientific investigation. So, we can say that sense experience leads to a posteriori knowledge, that is knowledge or judgment after experience. And the second important source of knowledge is reasoning. Ancient Greek philosophers had recognized that man is a rational animal, and rationalists like Descartes in modern times emphasized rational knowledge as the source of immediate, certain and necessary truth. Accordingly, genuine knowledge is rational and a priori or before experience. Descartes, for example, considered our knowledge of the self, God, etc. as innate pure concepts, and according to him, sense experience cannot give us indubitable truth, and we can grasp self-evident truths only by means of reasoning. Intuition is the third source of knowledge, that is the direct and immediate knowledge that may precede sense experience and reasoning. There is Henry Bergson, who had developed his intuitionist theory by considering intuition and intelligence as opposite in function. According to him, the innermost life impulse can be experienced only by intuition. And there are also religious prophets and mystics who claim to know the truths by intuition. In science also, there are many discoveries in a flash. For example, the Eureka experience of Archimedes. The fourth and sometimes the widely accepted source is authority, which is the common way of acquiring knowledge that depends upon the authority of reliable experts in a field. Authority based knowledge is neither by intuition nor by reasoning, but by accepting the words of a wise and trustworthy person in the field. Authority as a source of knowledge is of course unavoidable in any field of study, but we must be careful that uncritical and blind acceptance of authority is wrong. Similarly, it is advised that we should not seek the authority of an expert in one field for guidance in another field. And in common sense understanding, there is nothing complex in the statement A knows X. However, epistemology goes deeper to analyze the complex issues in explaining the processes involved in the act of knowing, which presupposes the correlation between the knower A and the known X, or that is the relationship between the subject and object. The word know may be used in a variety of ways, as for example, in different types of knowledge. One is knowledge by acquaintance. For example, I know that place, and second type is knowing how, which we consider as procedural knowledge. In the case of the judgment, she knows how to use a computer. And the third one is propositional knowledge, like A knows that X is living in the town. The task of epistemologist is to demarcate knowledge by defining the term precisely. So, in the traditional concept of knowledge, we use the term justified true belief, abbreviated as JTB. It means that a proposition, for example, take A knows that X is C is true on three definite conditions. First one is the proposition must be true. Second, the person who utters it, the speaker, must accept it. And third, that proposition must be one which is evident for that person. For example, take the proposition, we know that oil prices increase day by day. It becomes a known fact or precisely knowledge only if it is a fact known to a person who accepts it based on sufficient evidence. So, to begin with, it is a person's belief, yet that proposition can become knowledge if it is justified on evident ground or proofs. Hence, a belief, to assume the status of knowledge, must have both necessary and sufficient conditions as its ground. The necessary ground of a proposition is that which is not accidentally true. Yet, this necessity may not be always the sufficient condition to prove that proposition. See the example of a man who sees and believes that there is a sheep in the field. At the time of his reporting the judgment, the object he had noticed in the field was actually a dog. Anyway, at that time there was a sheep in another part of the field, but not seen by that person. This is a strange case of JTB, in which the proposition there is a sheep in the field is true and the speaker believes it to be so. Moreover, it is evident for that person in the given situation of knowledge. Hence, JTB in this case is only accidental and it does not make the knowledge reliable and genuine. So, the three conditions of JTB theory of knowledge are necessary to make a belief true knowledge. And Edmund Gettier challenged this theory, the JTB theory, by showing that a proposition that fulfills all these three necessary conditions of true knowledge may not fulfill the sufficient conditions. Hence, a proposition may be accidentally true, but it does not make the knowledge genuinely true. We shall consider here some of the contemporary theories of knowledge and truth which address the problem of justification. First, we take foundationalism, which is the view that there are two kinds of JTBs which are interconnected. The first type of belief is justified immediately by their confirmed sources, and they are therefore foundational or basic beliefs. The second set of beliefs, they are inferred from the first set of immediately justified beliefs. Hence, they are mediately justified or inferential beliefs. The second position is coherentism, which is the theory of justification which is holistic, as it insists on the justification of a whole system of propositions that makes a single proposition justified. Hence, justification is based on the connection between the propositions within a system of knowledge, and this coherence is a matter of degree, and therefore, more coherent system makes its component propositions more justified and logically more consistent. There is the third position called reliabilism. According to this theory, the way in which a proposition is derived determines its justification chances. So, a judgment is justified as true only if it is derived by means of a reliable process of acquiring knowledge, and reliability may vary again in different cases. Hence, the degree of reliability determines the degree of its justifiability. From the above discussion, we could see that the problem of knowledge and truth is not as simple as we consider it in the common sense view. That is why philosophers go on debating the question of the true, false, necessary, accidental, genuine or fake in knowledge. Thus, advocates of different philosophical systems hold different epistemological positions according to their different metaphysical positions. We have three basic epistemological positions in Western philosophy, and they are rationalism, empiricism and skepticism. These three positions disagree with one another mainly on the question of the source and validity of knowledge. When we take rationalism, rationalism is the philosophical position that recognizes reason as the only reliable source of genuine knowledge and truth. Reason is everybody's innate faculty for the intuition of self-evident truths. René Descartes is regarded as the father of modern rationalism, and his dictum cogito ergo sum, that is, I think, therefore I exist, established thought or reason as the ground of existence. And this reason is the only source of clear, distinct and necessary knowledge, because the knowledge from sense experience is always doubtful and uncertain. Rationalist epistemology favors the a priori status of the thinking self, God, etc., as indubitable and immediate truths knowable by reasoning alone. When we come to the next position, that is empiricism, empiricist philosophers regard sense experience as the ultimate source of genuine knowledge. They hold that one can attain knowledge only through the experience received by sense organs. So, empiricists reject the idealist notion of the ontological priority of ideas over objective reality, and they reject the rationalist thesis of self-evident truths. Accordingly, ideas are only the byproducts of empirical knowledge, and in modern Western philosophy, the British empiricist John Locke had developed the theory that mind is a tabula rasa or empty tablet, into which ideas are passed through sense experience, and Locke strongly criticized the theory of innate ideas postulated by Descartes on the ground that if there are self-evident innate ideas, they should be known clearly to imbeciles, children and lunatics, and this is not the fact, because the ideas acquired from childhood are derived from experience. Hence, empiricist epistemology recognizes the a posteriori status of all ideas as originating from experience, and logical positivism is the recent empiricist position that insisted on verifiability as the criterion of truth. Logical positivists like Schlick, Carnap and A. J. Ayer had pointed out that the metaphysical inferences about a primordial substance, God or soul are not directly or indirectly verifiable, and hence such propositions are literally nonsensical, that is, making no sense. And we come to the position called skepticism, which is the philosophical position that holds there is no certain means to acquire genuine knowledge. Skeptics regard all knowledge as probable and holds that nothing can be proved with logical certainty. Skeptics doubt the possibility of any certain knowledge rather than proving it. David Hume, the famous Scottish philosopher, is the strongest skeptic thinker in modern Western philosophy. He argued that we cannot prove the existence of the self or causality in terms of epistemological necessity, because such generalizations are only a habit of mind. We observe that x produces y so many times, and hence it is expected that in the next instance of x, y will occur. The skeptics argue that they are only our expectations based on repeated experience and habitual association of ideas, and these expectations may go wrong in future. Hume is therefore a skeptic in the sense that he thinks it is impossible for human understanding to grasp the real nature of things independently of experience. Now, we have to consider the theory of knowledge introduced by Immanuel Kant, who had synthesized the three systems: rationalism, empiricism and skepticism. And he had tried to resolve the dispute between these three systems, that is, by arguing that in the case of knowledge, we have to consider both the objective part of knowledge and the subjective part of knowledge. And hence Kant could give a new direction to epistemological inquiries by arguing that whatever knowledge we acquire presupposes a synthesis of percepts and concepts. Accordingly, there is both the objective ground of knowledge in the form of percepts we receive from the world outside, and the subjective modes of knowledge that are innately present in our mind, namely the space time, causality, etc. Hence, whatever sense data we acquire a posteriori are processed into knowledge by the a priori conditions of knowledge present in the mind of the subject. There are mainly three distinct theories of truth pertaining to the different theories of knowledge. First of all, we have to consider the correspondence theory of truth, and according to this theory, a proposition is true if it agrees with reality, and it is false if it does not agree. And correspondence theory demands a clear conformity between judgments and states of affairs as the standard of truth. Every truth bearer statement corresponds to a certain state of affairs, either affirmatively or negatively, and the advocates of correspondence theory of truth are realists who recognize the existence of objective facts and conditions as the ground of truth or falsity of our judgments. John Locke's epistemological position is known as representative realism based on correspondence theory of truth. Secondly, we consider the coherence theory of truth, and according to this theory, a statement is true only if it coheres within a system of related statements, and it is false if it does not. This coherence is not agreement with reality or with facts. Coherence depends on the necessary relationship between the judgments or propositions within a unit or system of knowledge. Thus, coherence of ideas provides the criteria or test by which judgments are proved as true or false. Accordingly, a proposition is true if it fits logically into a set of related propositions. Hence, the internal harmony of ideas rather than the judgment fact correspondence is the criterion of truth according to coherence theory. Idealists like Hegel and Bradley are the prominent advocates of coherence theory. Now, we pass on to the pragmatist theory of truth, which is comparatively a recent theory of knowledge and truth, developed in response to the success of science in the contemporary world. Pragmatists emphasize the close link between human experience and truth. The prominent advocates of pragmatism are Charles Peirce, William James and John Dewey. They emphasize usefulness, workability or practicality as the necessary criterion of truth. So, an idea is true if it produces positive, useful results in human life, and it is not true if it does not fulfill the criterion of workability. Hence, the truth of an idea lies in its effectiveness. The process of its verification and validation should focus on the norm of usefulness. Thus, pragmatist account of knowledge and truth emphasizes the progressive value of judgments in the field of science, ethics and even religion. So, epistemology, as we could see from the preceding studies, is the most valuable part of philosophical studies, both as a theoretical and as a critical discipline. It is at the same time a theory of knowledge and a critic of our conventional convictions about knowledge. As a branch of metaphysics, epistemology is concerned with knowledge in its most fundamental and general aspects. Moreover, it is the finger post to the issues of disagreement between philosophers. Now, let us try to answer the following questions. First one is, define epistemology and bring out the different sources of knowledge. Second, define epistemology and bring out the different theories that deal with the question of judgment, justification, correlation. Third, demonstrate how the rationalist and empiricist philosophers disagree on the question of knowledge. And fourth, bring out the basic differences between the rationalist, empiricist and skeptical theories of knowledge. And finally, make a comparative study of the main theories of truth. Now, we shall see a list of relevant books and helpful websites. Let us to start with Stanley Horner's Invitation to Philosophy, Issues and Options. And second, consider the book Theory of Knowledge by Roderick Kishon. And there is a book on contemporary epistemology by Ralph Bijan. And for beginners, I shall recommend Jadunath Sinha's Introduction to Philosophy. Then you can also try a concise dictionary of philosophy compiled by Srinivas and Vempati Kudumba Shastri. And there is a very useful book for epistemological studies by John Hospers. The title is An Introduction to Philosophical Analysis. About the websites, you can try ITIM Online, Epistemelinks, then Routledge.com, and also there is importanceofphilosophy.com. So, now we close this session on the problem of knowledge under the title Epistemology. Hope this session was useful for you and you will find it interesting. Thank you.